Van Heutsz died in 1924, I think, and he got a monument in 1932. And this is this. It's a huge monument. It's in Amsterdam. Before the opening of that monument, it was already controversial. There were right-wing organizations and people that really embraced the idea that Van Heutsz should have this monument because he made sure that the Netherlands got their colony, and they were proud of that. And Van Heutsz did a very good job because he made sure the colony became Dutch, and the people from Aceh were beaten, conquered. But there were also socialist groups of people in the Netherlands that didn't agree with that. And they started to protest already from the beginning in 1932. And here you see something, I think it's in the 60s, where people were protesting against this monument. Here the people threw paint on it. And this continued. There have been 2 bomb attacks on it, one in 1969 and one in 1984. So people put bombs on it in hoping the whole monument would explode. And then in around 2000, there was an initiative to rename the monument. So the monument was erased from Van Heutsz. They said this man was not representing our colonial history in a proper way, so we erased his name from it. And it looks like this. This is the contemporary situation. And it's named now the monument for the relationship between the Netherlands and the Netherlands Indies in Indonesia. And this is the plaque on the backside. And I think this plaque is very controversial in itself because it says, some people think that Van Heutsz represents a black page in colonial history. Therefore, this monument, he's out of this monument. So what is left over is a colonial history, which we all embrace. And I think, if I see that monument, I don't want to have Van Heutsz erased from that history. He is part of that history. Actually, he represents a small era of Aceh and 70,000 people, and there have been killed many people. But this whole colonial history is, as far as I'm concerned, at least to be considered to be a black page. So what this monument is now saying is like, this whole colonial era is fantastic because we erased this black page of Van Heutsz. And also when you consider this monument of Van Heutsz was done 9 years after he died. And it was not only to commemorate him, but he was a sort of used or maybe abused by the Dutch government to glorify the imperialistic attitude. The Queen Wilhelmina, who was a young girl at that time, needed to have a colony because every powerful leader should have a colony. And her mother made sure that this Indonesia or this Indies, this was the right present for, let's say, the power of the next queen to represent her status. So Van Heutsz is not only Van Heutsz and commemorate him, but his monument, also the scale of the monument, is representing Dutch imperialism. And now we come to a really big, and this is the issue which we really want to discuss today, a big problem, because you've seen at the beginning, if a monument is made to honor and people don't want to honor it anymore, you see it can only lead to aggression. You take the monument down, you start spitting on it because you hate what it represents. It is really time, and I really see this as a kind of emancipation, that people introduce a new instrument for commemoration. And I think the idea of the pillory, not in a literary sense, but in a conceptual sense, could be very useful. A monument or a statue to honor at a certain moment becomes a pillory to dishonor. So these things overlap at a certain moment. So I really want to try and see if it's possible or necessary, maybe, or not possible, to introduce this concept of the pillory as a tool to deal with these old monuments. Because I think if you have a tool to honor and you have a tool to dishonor, in between, space starts to exist to deal with history. If these signs of commemoration are taken out, is commemoration itself also taken out? And maybe if commemoration is taken out, memory certainly will not be taken out. If commemoration taken out, how memory is dealing with colonial history. And I'm particularly interested in the question of, is there any interest in Indonesia how Dutch people and how the Dutch government is dealing with this colonial history? I mean, here it seems like after Sukarno it's taken care of, it's wiped out, it's gone. But in the Netherlands it's still there, and there is still this colonial history. So the question is, do we still share some kind of commemoration, either it be in absence or in existence of monuments like that?
Connected with our research is about Sisinga Maharaja, one of the king, the hero, right, from Batak, and he was hunted by one of the special army. It's called Marsosa, and especially the tiger colony. It's called Colony Macan. It was one of the special army from KNIL. We try to collect the oral history. It means history known by coffee maker, farmers, just common people. So one of the messages about, please be clear about the history of Batak War and bring back the Pustaha, because Pustaha is like the manuscript. Yeah. Brought by the Dutch from Tanah Batak. And then the second is, please rebuild about 110 village which was burned out by the Dutch army from 1878 until 1883. And then the third, please neutralize violence, human violence did by the Dutch army to the family and the descendant of Singamangaraja.
That I'm dealing the issue of colonialism. But I did actually starting by doing research on a historical book for the children, and I got surprised I cannot find any trace of it.
That's true.
So this is kind of shock for me, because in Indonesia, even though you say there's no monuments, actually there are a lot of monuments. If you read our historical book, there are a lot of monuments, because in the historical book, especially for children of high school, they mention a lot about the Dutch is evils. The Dutch is colonial. The Dutch is do a lot of bad thing in Indonesia. So consciously we are thinking that we don't need to make monument, because we already make monument in our mind. So we don't need to make monument from bricks or mortar, because the mountain eruptions, the earthquakes, they can burn, you can destroy monument easily. But if you build a monument by your mind through historical book, it will stay last longer. Or you build a monument by making kind of folklore or oral history, it will stay longer than bricks and mortar. So That's also question me that if there are no trace on historical books of the history of colonialism in the Dutch for the children in the Dutch, meaning there is nothing there. Even though you say that there are a lot of monuments of Van Heutsz kind of thing, but in the real people, I mean, like the students, there are no trace at all. They don't even remember that the Dutch been colonized Indonesia for maybe 300 years. So they are also there are no trace at all. The trace maybe will stay on the elite, in the elite. I mean, the governments or the artists, but in the common people, they don't have a trace. If you want to build monument, you have to start from the children. You have to start from your historical books for the children, especially for elementary school. Because if they don't know, so meaning there's no history.
They are Dutch, I mean, Indonesians. And sometimes they ask me, are you angry about the history? I say angry or not, no matter. The point is how the mental of slavery or the mental colonizations keep longer or not, keep going on or not in Indonesia, or even in the world. But what we can do about the monuments, physically monument or memory monument, but how we can work together to fight in both sides about the mental slavery still exists.
I think it's about how us Indonesian owning our history, owning our colonialism or the black age, because like Mas Agung say, our education is not ready, and I kind of think that Dutch education is not ready too for decolonizing.
Exactly.
And I think it should be a two-way readiness. It's not just our Indonesian. It's not just the young Indonesian or Indonesian education to be ready, but it's also the Dutch. And decolonization should work in a concept way. It's like in the both. But I think in this century, we should make more I don't know, like methods, more creative methods. Not statue or pillory is just another way. And I think it's kind of a European way to see to commemorate. It's a very European kind of way to remember history. We as the young people live like in the education system and the bureaucratic system that is based on colonialistic way. So I think there should be more form of arts as a critic, and maybe what kind of an exchange of forms that we can build a consent between the European and
I think commemoration is a group expression.
Yeah.
And I think you somehow need mediums. So the mediums can be debatable, can be a physical monument or physical statue, can be also a hymn song, can be also a mural, public mural. So it always depends on the time of the generation. Maybe monument, statue, and whatever monument is the proper medium at the time in Holland. You have to start from yourself. You don't need to abuse someone else. I think that sort of commemoration will stay, will last forever.
All the museums in Europe that base all the collection on steel is completely standard.
Yeah.
There's a lot of museums in Europe full of standard. You don't need to make another monument for it because they're already there. So talking about these hunters, I mean, you just go to the museum.
It's somehow, it always amazes me that often Dutch historians or artists or researchers somehow come to Indonesia to ask how to do things. Well, what is the answer? It's like, no, you don't go to the country that's been oppressed for like for hundreds of years, and ask, hey, how can we make this better? How can not this situation better? How can we make our situation better? For me, it's not right. Like, I think it's like the same thinking about like how racism functions, and that often people who endure racism have to be the one to educate. That's not right. Like, in the end, it's about who is speaking, who sets the stage to speak, and also who is willing to do that work. And I don't mean that there shouldn't be any conversation, but I think maybe, for me, maybe the conversation here now, I'm wondering like what is maybe the aim of that conversation? What is the context of that? Like where the knowledge that everybody's somehow sharing now, where does that go to? How is that used? Whose voices are being used in that sense?
But the question in here, I think, there is two things that people are now talking about. One is how to deal with colonialism. And the other thing that I think you are talking about is how to deal with the monument that remained after colonialism, right? Like that's what we actually talk here as an artist. But in Indonesia, I think that people don't have to hate, because hatred is bad overall. They cannot hate Netherlands forever, but they can deal with what they have done with the monuments that they already did. Some destroyed, some disappeared. But I think the only thing that remains is to be true to the history. Artists and other intellectuals, they're always open-minded in every country. So if artists really wants to put all this thing that happened to them into the history, they depend on academians. That they are the ones that they take a proof from the government to make it real history. So I think that this kinds of discussion that make it real in a part of the history is the academian. That they can do it, they have to be honest to the history. And the government should put a stamp that, yeah, this is now the real history, that then they can go on.
I actually think that it's really need to come back to owning the narrative itself. Like how the Indonesian have to accept as the victim. I mean, like most of the monument or most of the story is always like, okay, Indonesia has been the victim of this oppressed, and this the Netherlands, or they know that they're doing something bad, but somehow they also didn't owning the narrative that they're doing something bad about it. Like we need to really aware about, we now what all this fact that already happened, that what we need to do for the future.
Surprised because when the consortium and the debate is starting, and suddenly one or two people start asking like, Indonesia played victim. We don't think about the Papua or Timor Leste. It's always like that. I mean, if Indonesia starts off something, and then about the colonial, and then also somebody is trying to attack again. You know, sometimes it's difficult for us. Like, okay, and then when we start again, and then somebody start asking about the 65 genocide again and again. If you can deal with this history about the fun house in the book student or in the history in Indonesia, that people can learn about the history, there should be more monuments on that.